Hey guys, welcome to Biomassed episode 27. Glad you can join us today. If you're in Arizona like me and mess up the time, you're also an idiot. We in Arizona we don't do daylight savings time, so I got a little confused and screwed up the time. So if you managed to tune in, glad you're here. Everyone else, I hope you set your clocks back and enjoyed your 3 hours sleep today. But anyways, so
it was a fantastic hour
on a Sunday because you usually wake up early on those days, right?
I feel so sorry for you guys not getting that extra hour.
Yeah, like I said, in Arizona we hate the sun. It's a terrible thing and should go away as soon as possible. So we like it to get dark as quickly as we can. But yeah, anyways, thanks for joining in. We got a pretty big list of guests here today, so we'll just start at the top of the list and work our way down. So Iron Wolf.
Hello, I'm Aurum Wolf Saber. I'm CPU1 member and just messing around.
Okay, Jadek.
Hello, I'm Jadek Menaheim, CEO of Zur Cloud Consortium, largest rest home of all the counts in Dust 514.
All right. Killer, are you going to be joining us today?
Yeah. Hey, I'm Killer 12, CEO of Corporate Raiders, and general talking head of the forums and everywhere.
He didn't escape the recording channel fast enough.
Yeah, no, he's slinking around nullsec somewhere. You should probably go and find and kill him so we can listen to him scream in the air. But Leither, I don't think your voice is coming through, bud. Am I the only one not hearing him, or?
Yeah, no.
Yeah, he's gone. So just continue.
Okay, well, we'll get back to him in a second. I'm Pokey Draven, CEO of OSG Planetary Operations and co-host here on Biomassed. And Zell?
I'm Soraya Zell, another co-host here on Biomassed, leader of Top Men, and a member of CPM1.
And Jason Larson cannot, unfortunately, come today. He's doing federal NDA stuff that we can't talk about. So, we wish him best of luck, and hopefully he'll be back next week. Any chance in your mic working, Leither? I'll take that as a no. So, hopefully you can get it fixed. But, today we're probably going to go over mostly the complete patch notes for 1.9. It's coming out on Tuesday, so 2 days from now. We kind of touched on it last week, but we didn't have full confirmed, details. So it's pretty cool stuff. If you haven't read the blog online yet, we'll be going over it today. So we'll get started on that. So I'm just going to work my way down from the top of the list here. So November 4th is going to be the release of the 1.9 update. The short list is we're getting new maps, new sockets. They're going to be fixing or changing some things in the maps, just little details here and there. Loyalty ranks, skills and skill point improvements, the ability to sell to an NPC vendor, and some improvements to the veteran experience, which is going to be pretty cool. So some bug fixes, gameplay improvement, and whatnot. So the first thing we're going to start with is the new map and components. So it looks like they're adding a new terrain, and I think I'll let Iron Wolf handle this. He'd like to talk about the terrain maps. So what's going on with that?
Okay, as you know, currently there are two mega terrains, or maps as they're sometimes called.
I knew he was going to do that.
They're currently known as plateaus and craters. And you'll notice that all the maps that you as a player experience as is basically subsections of this larger map. So we're getting another really extra wide area called Highlands. And we'll be having additional battlefields that take place within Highlands. So this is actually maybe possibly three or more maps, but only 3 are being listed now.
So when you say 3 are being listed now, is the possibility of opening up additional sections of this mega terrain, and they're just starting off with a couple?
It depends if they decide to design a new one or not, but it's fairly possible.
Very cool, very cool. So that's going to be a pretty big deal. I mean, that's 3 full new maps just for terrain. They can stick various sockets in there and make it pretty unique. So that's I'm actually really surprised. I'm glad that we saw that. I expected maybe a new socket, but adding a whole new terrain is pretty huge. So that's really good to hear. Another thing is they're adding one of the large sockets they're adding is the Caldari production facility, and it's my understanding that this actually had existed for some time, but they couldn't implement it for resource reasons. Wow.
It couldn't run on when it was done. I mean, it's very similar to it was made in the same general time frame as the Galante research facility, and as you know, people had a lot of performance issues with that one. And this is, I think they probably used very similar specifications when designing this one.
So with that said, since they've obviously made some improvements to allow them to put that on the system, can we expect some improvements to the latency issues people have been seeing in the Galente research facility?
It should be. I mean, there's no way to really say ahead of time of seeing it on the client to say how much better it will be, but it should hopefully be a noticeable improvement.
But it's the same related issue was what I'm getting at. Is that what you're tracking?
Being frame rate, yeah.
Okay, cool. It looks like they're adding a couple medium sockets as well. The power core. I won't get into the description here. There's some cool pictures in the devlog. You really should check it out. It looks pretty cool. But there's a power core and the barracks, and it looks like those are going to be linked to the Caldari production facility large sockets. You'll be seeing those and on the new maps as well.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether or not those will show up sometimes with some of the other, or because I think we do have another Caldari large socket already, which is the orbital artillery rings map thing, whatever people prefer calling it.
The biomass.
And the biomass facility. Yep.
Yes. Yes, Leither. Introduce yourself, Leither, before we continue.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I'm Leither. I'm an officer in Mullen Lob, and I used to be the PC coordinator for Rise of Legion. And according to Jay, an adequate description is that I'm he got my weight a little bit wrong. I'm about 110 pounds of rage and pure bitterness strung together. So
you blow away with a strong breeze. But go ahead, Zal.
Okay, but so the idea is that the socket sets are designed to match a specific race, and so you'll notice that once the Galante research facility was launched, they put the other Galante socket got the same medium and small sockets as the research facility got. So Caldari sockets with Caldari cities and such.
Is the orbital cannon actually Caldari? I guess it's not Amar, huh?
It's Caldari.
There's no Amar sockets.
Yeah, I mean, I guess gold would probably ruin it. I'm sorry, I just get this image of like a gold-plated outpost in like my PS3, like with smoke coming out of it.
Like being as shiny as the new Quaif suits, but gold.
It can't handle the phase.
The whole socket just shining like that. Be awesome.
Going blind from the glare off the sun alone.
You'd almost wish that the orbital cannon was Minmatar, because usually they're color coded, right? And it's actually color coded for Minmatar, but if it's Caldari, I believe you guys.
So for the Minmatar, it's going to be a giant heap. It's going to be a big catapult shooting garbage up into the sky.
Yeah, it's like a ballista. Big crossbow just fires a giant rod.
They still have, as far as I know, that is that cargo hub still in production. They released screens a long time back for it.
Didn't the cargo hub become?
It's not in the same state as the Caldari lab production facility was. It is quite a bit of ways from being done.
Okay.
If they decide to ever work on it.
Yeah, if that ever comes out, I mean, that looks excellent.
It looks like ambush hell to me for any vehicle trying to drive through that place.
That's good, though. I think, I'm a vehicle pilot myself, but I think a lot of the maps are a little too friendly for a lot of vehicles. So, like, when the Galente production facility came out, that was pretty cool because it actually gave infantry a safe haven that they could actually get away and deal with vehicles if they were brave enough to come into the complex. So, I like to see more of that sort of thing in the maps. So, I'm actually really eager to see the Caldari production facility, because it does imply that it's a lot of close quarters from the sounds of it.
It's a little bit scary because we'll have to remap a lot of the PC districts, I guess, when I think about it, because they added new medium sockets. Usually the medium sockets don't change on the maps, even though you can change the large sockets on those districts by changing the infrastructure type. Of course, the production facility is actually something that will change, like the Surface Research Lab did, and a bunch of medium sockets got frazzled when they did that. So that kind of sucks. Sorry, a bit tangential.
Well, do you think it's going to change the large sockets for those installations?
Yeah, absolutely. It did with the research lab, and it fits in with the lore, right? I mean, right now we're using the biomass socket, which made a bit more sense than the old communications did for the Surface Research Lab, and of course the orbital bombardment large socket goes in for the cargo hub, which makes absolutely no goddamn sense. But yeah, they'll definitely replace it. Well, I say that. They replaced it the last time, and when they did replace it, it also replaced a bunch of medium sockets on other maps.
Well, that'll at least make things a little interesting and change things up and make it a little stale for those who like to keep their surface infrastructure the same.
Oh well, it invalidates parts of the the databases we maintain. So.
There's so few people using the production facility in PC though.
Nobody uses anything except cargo hubs anyway, so
All
probably
cargo
doesn't.
hubs. So nobody will notice that things have changed.
That's true. There will be like 3 people.
We were like, I remember one of our PC districts, we had the research facility, and we were like one of like 3 districts on the entire map that had the new socket.
Yeah, that was, but I mean, that map was a hell of a map to fight on.
You mean you're talking lag?
Yeah, that was a terrible. It was, I mean, like, it was an interesting fight. It was like the old fights where you would lag out bad, but also some of the matches wouldn't get a fucking tad bit of lag. Wouldn't even notice it. It was really variable from my experience, that is.
Well, hopefully we'll see some improvements with the recent changes they've made with optimizing the system. So I'm looking forward to that because I know it's been a big issue with a lot of the lag and frame rate issues in some of those maps.
I do have one question. Can any of the CPM like say who the magic dev is that was able to correct that memory budget issue?
No.
I wish he had a spotlight. I wish everybody could give buy him a beer or cake or something.
So let me ask.
I confirmed if I will if I can find out if I can meet him when during the summit. I'm gonna buy him a beer.
Something. Can I ask you guys, like, are you sure that this consults this precise issue and resolves this precise issue fully? Because traditionally, we've always had optimizations with almost every client patch, and they always put optimized something.
I'm not
on the patch notes.
I'm not willing to put my word behind it until I see it in the client.
Okay, so that.
But
so then my general impression is it will improve a little. It will improve a little bit, but I don't expect it to be.
I've heard very good things. I just don't know how good they will turn out in production.
Yeah, because you remember Uprising, like Uprising 1.0, all the devs were like running around with their hair on fire and they couldn't figure out what was wrong for a long time because it's like when we run our dev builds, it runs fine. I'm not sure how true that was. But...
Heck, it ran fine at FanFest. That was the sad thing.
Right.
Yeah, I did my own optimization. It's called an SSD. Anymore, that's where it's...
You can't see it, but I'm flicking you off.
I was like, I'm not doing it. There's no reason to. And they're like, yay, 1.9. I'm like, gosh, shit. Fine. I might have to do it now. So that'll be good. But
it's handy for other games is the thing. I mean, that is if I was on my PS3 more.
Speaking of optimizations, I've heard good things about if you have had the client installed for a long time. I've heard some rumors that deleting and reinstalling the client also helps. I can only guess that.
I've heard that.
Yeah, I can only. Apparently, it's like double the size if you haven't reinstalled it. In terms of space, it's like 5 gigabytes compared to 2.5 or something. I can't imagine what they fucked up other than not cleaning up some part of their assets consistently.
Yeah, I mean that would be my guess is that it's not.
These are
overwriting
CCP devs.
Everything. But I don't know.
They don't check those sort of things. That's irrelevant and not important.
I only play one game on my PS3, so if it wants to take up 50 gigs, I don't really care. But if I don't know if it has much of a performance difference or not. It might.
Yeah, my PS3 has a sign on that says dust box because that's all I really use it for. It's collecting dust, but that's all I play on it now. But since the PS4 is awesome, which is why I hope we get a port eventually. But regardless, let's move on to loyalty ranks. This is actually kind of unexpected. It's something I thought was kind of cool. It reminded me a bit of the badass ranks from Borderlands 2. But basically, from my understanding, how it works is that it's based off of the number of matches you've played in your lifetime and some other factors, and you rank up. And each rank offers additional perks. And in the screenshot here, it looks like they've got like a +2 additional skill point rewards per battle, additional ISK rewards per battle, additional daily skill point bonus, additional loyalty point bonus per battle, and the bonus to the vendor sell price when selling assets. And it looks like it's fairly small per ranks. I mean, this one's showing rank 5. It's 2% for the SP and 5% for the ISK rewards. So I mean those may not be final numbers, but it looks like pretty small bonuses per level. But it is a nice way to reward people who've been around for a while. That isn't necessarily a direct buff to their effectiveness in combat, but still gives them a little extra, SP and ISK to play with. So I mean, what are you guys' thoughts on that? I think this is a pretty cool system. I wasn't expecting it. I'm glad that they kind of put something like this in there.
Yeah, I was not expecting anything on this scope in a patch. It's very much a feature in its own, I think, and I think it's going to be cool particularly for giving people a progression line.
Yeah, the whole idea of achievements is really nice too, and it's going to be interesting to see how it works because they are retroactive. So like, come Tuesday, we're going to see where we're all at.
I got a pretty good guess. It's going to be max rank on day one.
So is there a max rank? I mean, I know they talk about a max bonus, but I'm not sure if you approach that bonus or actually meet it.
There's a max bonus.
Meet it. It should just outright be a top level.
Now, do you guys know if that's something that people who have been around since Uprising 1.0 will already be at, or is that something that you have to pretty much know life to get to?
We don't know the grinding amount, but also there are other ways to bring it up, such as supporting the game by buying Aurum. I'm not trying to sell the game here, but it basically allows players to actually spend money on this game to rank up faster too.
So we're theorizing Denny's going to be max rank, right?
Denny and probably Zatara.
Yeah, Zatara and Denny for different reasons.
Yeah, just the size of that post Denny
Zatara
made.
might be there because of his playtime
Denny
alone.
made that post, and now I can make jokes about it. So
Well, yeah, I mean, I thought everybody was kind of grossly aware of. Anyway, I actually don't know that I love the bonuses, the ISK bonuses, especially the SP, especially considering all the other SP changes. It doesn't really matter, but the ISK bonuses, I don't like giving the people who are most likely to run, proto and pub matches against people who don't have the money or SP to have it, having more ISK to do that with than the other people. I don't like that, but
Fair point.
Quick question. Regarding the ISK, will that apply to PC battle payoffs?
No, from what I recall.
Okay.
Oh Jesus, that was close. That was.
Yeah, that would.
That can get kind of crazy.
Well, the numbers.
I don't
really...
think it. I don't think it changes the biomass payout.
Yeah, the problem being that if they wonk with those too much, how close are we running? Do you know, Killer? I can't remember offhand. If they up the biomass payout, then sometimes you can have locking come back. So.
Yeah, I mean it's not super close, but I mean it wouldn't be too hard. I mean, locking isn't that unprofitable. It's still unprofitable, but it's just not a huge margin.
Right. So, but I mean, we're talking maybe 5 some odd %. It probably won't. Hopefully, they've thought that through. So.
Yeah, I think it's a matter of degree. I mean, if like the max ISK payout bonus is like 5% or 10%. I don't think it's going to be that much of an issue. Now, if it gets really crazy, I could see that kind of being a problem, like you say, where those who have been around forever are making an obscene amount extra ISK. So, I mean, it's kind of a matter of degree and how fast the progression goes. Because, I mean, if most of the bonuses in the early levels, and it's like a non-linear progression, I'm not too worried about it, because most people will hit those mid-range ranks pretty early and it won't be an issue. But we'll see. I mean, like I said, the numbers they're showing are probably not final. We don't know. So we'll see what it turns out to be and how easy it is to actually rank up in the system. I am a little surprised that selling Aurum raises your level. I'm surprised people actually aren't more pissed off about that, because in that regard, you are paying ISK or paying money to get Aurum to get more SP, more stuff like that. And that kind of borderlines the pay to win. It's a matter of degree, but I'm surprised people actually aren't pissed about
so
that.
You mean this whole patch?
There's a discussion about, people have said pay to win about this feature or that feature, several of them in fact, but the reality is pay to win is if you can get something that is superior to everything else via money that you cannot get with ISK. It doesn't involve, there's no thing about the amount of something you get that equals pay to win.
you define these things in the most convenient way for CCP to make the patches that are upcoming.
No,
I'm not I mean, we're gonna
that's-
get to the agent thing. I'm not a big fan of the agent thing.
Yeah, well, I mean that's the same basic, supposed issue, but the reality is the idea is that it's supposed to get you things faster. Which again, you could farm out the ISK, you could farm out the SP, you could farm out, whatever you need. It's very important in the design that it is not more powerful on the battlefield, but that doesn't mean it shouldn't or can't be more profitable.
I can respect that, but it shifts the in-game experience towards a different mixture of gear level. Okay, like saying that it's faster. Yeah, it's faster to get your, instead of saving to get your best suits in enough quantity to run them, you're saving for less time, I guess is the way you might phrase it. But that means that there will be more people wearing those suits more often in matches where they will probably dominate anybody in a frontline suit. It's not that we can equivocate on the definition of pay to win. Either way, I'm not happy with what it does to the in-game environment.
I think it's a matter of degree, because I mean, in a free-to-play game, there has to be a certain level of dissatisfaction with not paying, so you're encouraged to actually buy something. Otherwise, no one would buy anything. That being said, you also have to make it so you don't feel like it is necessary to buy something to actually remain competitive, even if it's not like an in-game advantage. Being able to generate ISK or SP at a significantly higher rate, it's going to make people feel like, oh, well, I'm not paying Aurum, so these guys are getting 3 times the experience I am. I can't keep up. And I mean, for people like us who have a ton of money and a ton of SP, it's not as big of a deal. But for a new player coming in, I do have some real concerns of them looking at some of these numbers we're seeing in the 1.9 patch and saying, well, I have to pay Aurum now if I want to stay competitive. Even if it's the same gear you can get, even if it's just, oh, you can do it faster. If you're doing it so fast that you feel like you're being left in the dust, that, no pun intended, that is a problem. So I do have my concerns about some of these numbers we're looking at.
I think it was Kane that figured out you could, if you could stack your triple boosters, you could, and I think it was like you had to invest about $5,000 into the game. You could essentially beat Dust in 82 weeks.
Yeah, it was like a year and a half or something like that.
Oh, is this with a mega boosters?
Well, yeah, because you can triple stack them now with 1.8 or 1.9 rather.
And I mean that's a whole nother
we'll
chart
get
of
to
the
that.
discussion, right? So
yeah, we'll get to that. I have some issues with that as well, so we'll get there. But yeah, like I said, I'm curious in seeing what those bonuses will actually be and how fast you can progress, because I don't want it to get out of hand. I know I cited Borderlands 2 with the badass ranks, which was basically you're constantly gaining badass ranks, which gave you very, very small bonuses to stats that you would stack up over a long period of time. They weren't substantial over a long period, but you still felt like you're actually gaining something, which is cool. But again, those were very small bonuses, so we'll see where they land with this. I don't want to get too out of hand, but it is nice that they're rewarding people for sticking around and supporting the game, and see where that goes. Next thing is, it looks like we have 2 new moods for the maps, which look like weather conditions. Do you guys want to elaborate on that a bit?
Yeah, moods are basically, for all intents and purposes, generally the skybox and the texture of the terrain on the ground. And we've definitely had, I think, more in the past than we have had more recently, probably in some cases due to performance issues. But it's one of the ways they try and make landscapes look a bit more varied, where it's the same map, but it's you might have in one battle it's like a very very dry, barren look, and sometimes maybe it's a grassy, bright outlook sort of area. And so this is just 2 more designs that they've got.
There's grass and dust.
We have
some maps.
Fuzzy moss on the ground.
It's like that. There's green. That the texture on the ground is green.
Well, no, they actually do have little things of grass every so often. You can get.
You just have to be within 30 meters to actually see it. Otherwise, it pops out of the ground when you drive.
Yeah,
by.
wasn't that like a major point on one of these client-side patches, like Uprising 1.2 or 3. I seem to remember.
But Legion has burning trees, and we don't have burning trees.
Oh, I don't get
Bam?
trees.
Ha! A burning tree. Will it talk to me and call itself Project Legion? I'm sorry. I don't know.
Oh my god.
On the point of Project Legion, it's kind of interesting to see those assets now used. I mean, looking at Stormy Mood, you could see that was used during FanFest.
Yes, it was, and I was rather surprised it was being brought in.
And I know they had some discussion of lighting effects. There was a blog that went around, correct? But of course, that was for Legion.
That's definitely a higher tech on Legion, on basically particle and projection of lights.
Yeah, that was an interesting. In fact, that was a FanFest presentation, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
And that's the last we ever heard of it. But anyways, I do miss a lot of the old atmospheric effects we used to have in Dust. I remember, it was me. It might have been back in the beta. Actually, there was actually a sandstorm weather effect where there's actually dust blowing around and visibility was a lot lower, but it got scrapped for performance issues. Or Modest Peak used to have lightning strikes, didn't it?
Very thick fog and lightning strikes.
Man, I forget that those things were around and people bring them up, and I reminisce, and it's like, shit. I wish they could have actually figured out a way to keep that sort of thing in there, because that actually was really awesome. I remember going into Modest Peak, which is not my favorite map, but back in the day, coming in and seeing the fog and the lightning, I was like, holy crap, this is a cool looking map. Like this, I feel like I'm in this dusty, foggy space, sci-fi planet. It really helped that immersion, and we lost that, unfortunately, for performance, and it just kind of, I'm a little bitter about it, just because I really like the aesthetics, and we lost a lot of that, I think, in exchange for arguably better/worse mechanics. But regardless, it's good to see them bringing in some new moods and trying to kind of change up the look of it. The screenshots they have on the devlog are actually really good looking. I wonder if it'll actually look that good in the client itself.
You mean half as good, right? I mean, it is a screenshot.
Yeah. One interesting bit is in the toxic mood picture here. It almost looks like an Amarian structure out in the distance. I mean, are you guys looking at that?
Yeah, it's definitely Amarian.
That's interesting. So are these moods that were pre-existing as well, like the production facility map?
We have no idea on these.
Okay, because I mean, I was kind of thinking about it, and I was wondering, they put a lot more into, 1.9 than I was expecting. Like we'll get to that in a second, but the market agent that you can purchase for your room is apparently a hologram, and I'm surprised they actually put the time into modeling a hologram, because I don't think they probably had that to begin with, and I'm curious. Are these Legion assets they're potentially bringing to Dust, or stuff that they're producing for Dust and they're going to port to Legion? I'm just surprised that they actually took the time to make something besides just optimize and patch stuff in that they had already. So it's interesting. I mean, I don't want to tinfoil too much, but seeing that Amar structure in the distance is intriguing. I'm sure True Adamance on the forums is probably wringing his hands looking at it.
The biggest surprise to me on the market agent appearing in quarters is that I think people probably know Incarnate is kind of my kicking pony that I think CCP should be working on, and since Incarnate 1.1, this is the first time that you're going to be able to actually. It's the first real iteration to your quarters of sorts. And the first time that anyone can buy something or get something that appears in their quarters. Because that's something that Eve can't do.
So, are they also fixing some of the lighting issues? Because, for instance, in the Caldari quarters, something some of you might have noticed, the steps that lead up to the upper platform in the Caldari quarters, if you approach those from the correct angle, their entire geometry actually, I say their entire geometry, their surface geometry changes to the tune of bright, jagged colors that are of the same type as the rest of the room, but they're different. Yeah, so when I hear about this new hologram thing, I'm like, oh god, oh god.
Yeah, and just
cool,
so everyone knows,
lighting effects are a feature.
It's not cool at all. It's very. it drives me absolutely batshit. Obviously, by my description,
He looks really good in a buff suit.
Driving Leither batshit. It's a feature.
Jeez. Go ahead, Jack. You were saying something.
Yeah, the lighting effects look particularly nice in a Quave suit.
It makes everything reflect purple in the room, or pink, depending on which type you're using. But yeah, so since we're on the topic of the market agent, that's actually the next thing. So it looks like they are adding the ability to sell assets to an NPC vendor, and it looks like the base sell price will be 20% of its market value.
That's correct.
That can be leveled up through your loyalty ranks up to 35%. And then you can purchase this NPC agent, which, if you want to dig into the lore, basically haggles a better price in the market for your shit. And that will add an additional 15%. So with the agent and max loyalty bonus, you can sell your stuff for 50% of the market value.
And obviously, if you don't have max rank, you can do that in any order. It's not that you have to be up to 35 and then buy the agent, or vice versa.
Yeah, and I'm told that by Rattati that the market agent is female, it's a hologram, and it's awesome. So we'll be seeing what that looks like come Tuesday. I think a lot of people are probably pretty excited about that.
The threads for that were hilarious. I seriously, that thread was the thread in question was like, is it a chick and is she hot? And the title of the question was it was something like answering the important questions first or something. And I'm like, okay. I put it in the channel that I have to talk to Rattati. I'm like, okay, this question needs your answer. I didn't actually think he was going to answer it.
Yeah, but it was pretty funny.
So let me open the floor with what I said earlier. I don't like this change either. I don't like the idea. 15% is pretty substantial. I don't like the idea of your ability to gain in-game resources being pinned on paying CCP money directly like this. I think it's if you don't want to call it pay to win under a definition that says that you can't get anything more powerful, it certainly encourages increased access to ISK, which I always saw as the in-game currency, right? It's the currency you can get in-game at the same rate as everyone else, and then Aurum was the transaction currency. Well, it kind of blurs the line.
The counterpoint is that almost everything that you can buy with ISK, short of like clone packs for PC, is equally able to be purchased for Aurum. So to some degree, it's not like it just changes the dynamic of spending money. People who spend money on the game getting slightly more to work with. They could just buy all those weapons with Aurum.
Well, this is the thing. Like, it's permanent, so it's like it's a GIMP, right? Either you pay and you're not gimped, or you don't pay and you are, and that is different than, say, the previous Aurum stuff, where you could buy those items. They still are kind of expensive when you start totaling up the real life value. It's like a couple pennies to die, right? And the thing is, they were consumed, right? Eventually, even if you bought a lot of stuff, which I thought was, pretty good for their market dynamic.
But I don't think it's actually a huge amount of ISK, because you talk, it is 15%, but it's 15% of salvage that you sell back. It's not payout.
But still, I mean, that's 15% of salvage, and assuming that they keep the rates the same, that might be a little bit tame. But if they're looking at increasing them to be commensurate with the fact that you actually, make some money off salvage, and certainly there are a lot of people who have stockpiled shit, like I have, who, if they wanted to sell it and don't want to pay the price, they certainly won't be getting anywhere near as much of a nest egg. It certainly ripples out across that entire stockpile.
Leither, you also have the officer weapon event coming up at the end of the November, so probably see an increase in purchasing that market agent around that time.
I would hope people hang on to their officer weapons. That you shouldn't vendor those.
I mean, yeah,
the highest skill requirements sort of does so.
Yeah, but I mean, it's one of those things that I would love to find something better to do with your officer weapons than vendor.
Would love to trade them for ones I can use.
that'd be great, or
That'd be actually kind of an interesting system where you can actually trade in officer weapons at an exchange rate for another type that you would like, rather than just breaking them down into ISK.
That would be nice. They had talked about the BPO exchange too. That's just between your own accounts.
Yeah, we'll get that into bleh, sorry. We'll get to that in a second. But yeah, I kind of see the market agent as being similar in line to what boosters are, where, like Leither said, I mean, I consider SP an in-game resource as well, and boosters are a way to get it faster, and there's no way to actually get that otherwise. You have to, buy that with Aurum, and I think in that regard, that's the closest the game gets to pay to win. So I think this is kind of along a similar branch that, you have to buy this if you want to get that accelerated rate. But Zelda's raised a good point that, it is salvage, and except for maybe in PC, the amount that you're getting is very small. It's more of a, you can clean out your inventory. I mean, for me, I don't really care about the ESC. I just want to get rid of all the red crap in my inventory. But I'm curious to see if this actually causes a significant influx, and if that 15% actually really matters. We'll see. Again, we don't have any concrete details on how that's going to work. So I'd like to see the price point on it specifically. On how much it
you bring up a good point about PC that I hadn't considered. Of course, PC is in a state, but if they ever want to rely on salvage as a potential income stream in the future, the actual man-to-man income rate, especially from losses and wins, doesn't really matter, is crucially important. From my experience in PC, when people start running low on ISK, which can happen or used to happen, that was a big deal. So 15%, for one or two or however many people on your team want to buy that can be a pretty big deal for morale even. So that's kind of shitty. Because that's an actual resource war, like that. Suddenly, if enough of your people have paid in for the extra 15%, if it's a substantial part of your offset costs, that can be significant.
You should actually start taking a poll of what the average salvage drop is for the average person in a PC match, and calc it out to figure out, what the base amount is, at 20% or 30%, and then how much you would actually make per PC match with the agent. And I would be really curious to see.
Try and get some actual values on that.
Because if it is significant, that is something to look at, like you said, because that can cause a big difference. I mean, 15% is not a small amount, and salvage is very plentiful in PC. It's much more than your average pub match. So I'd be curious to see what that actually comes out to.
Right, There's also the faction warfare factor as well, since they're based on player dropping salvage.
That's true. It's not to the extent of PC, though.
But it's still.
Yeah, for sure.
What's interesting is that the ISK values, I would love to see the data, and I would also argue that there are breakpoint values for morale. Big wars that grind on to the end of people's ISK reserves haven't happened for a long time, right? But when they did, just not having to play that extra match, or not having to, worry about your ISK or ask for some from the corp, which sometimes was something that people were able to provide, that can have a big morale impact, even if it, materially, if you put it all into, say, like a pot compared to the amount that a corp used to be making, for instance, it might be trivial, but
something like that. I think with agent and PC, I think one corp will not necessarily have an advantage. I mean, having that agent is more of an individual's thing rather than a collective. I mean, you're not going to have one corp where a bunch of people have agents and another corp where people don't have agents. You might have some players who do, some players who don't. It's just going to be an effect that's more of a specific, a player-on-player thing. And honestly, I don't think that unless the agents are like maybe 20,000 Aurum, I don't think that they're going to sell super well, but that's just me.
I mean, it's an interesting point. What I would hate from the history of PC, when things come up, there have been Aurum pressures, when Flaylocks were really overpowered. Now there was an SP event right before that happened, and a respec, I think, a little bit before the SP event, but yeah. But there were still a few people I remember who hadn't gotten to prototype Flaylock. I'm one of them. I have a few Aurum Flaylock pistols left in my inventory. Because they were so grossly overpowered, it was like you had to have them. I'm not sure whether this agent would turn out to be one of these things that you felt like you'd have to have. If it did, that would suck. And that's the point to make, to be competitive.
Yeah, and I don't think that it should be that strong of an effect. But I mean, the reality is a game has to, for a game to work in free to play, it has to be very appealing to spend money if you're heavily playing the game.
I guess one thing that I'm kind of curious about is how the value of Dust ISK is going to pan out after this. I mean, I've been talking a little bit with Victor and Kane. I mean, he did his escrow services, and then people do ISK or Dust Eve transfers as well.
Well, I mean, with that sort of thing, I mean, people like Jen from in that, if you want to make ISK from money, you can make it a lot easier if you just go and have an Eve character, especially with the Phoebe changes, where you can just transfer money from a trial account, which means that you can just get a trial, sell a Plex, say, hey, Kane, Jin, does Fiddle do it still? If he did, I don't even think he plays still.
Hopefully sell too, with a buddy program.
I mean, you don't even need the buddy program. All you'd need would be a 14-day to fucking do that. You can sell a Plex on a trial, correct?
Right. I always get confused about this, but CCP has this figured out. You can subscribe and then get a Plex, but it costs $20 to subscribe rather than 15.
Yeah.
Fuck me. Go ahead.
I mean, hell, you can just sell a fucking Plex, and then transfer rates, will be down to, I'm gonna have to do it in my head, 20 million, I think. I mean, 200 million, which, I mean, it's good money to have. That's 4 clone attacks in PC, which is, I mean, that's a big amount of. That allows a Corp to go and get into PC for a relatively low amount of cost.
Well, you should be able to get it from someone, admittedly, but as long as you have enough to put some clones down on it. As long as you have a team.
Yeah,
this is kind of
important.
Yeah, that
public
whole
service
idea of prediction.
Yeah, public service announcement. If you have a team and you have enough money to put down a clone back, you can probably find someone to give you a tester.
Yeah, true. You guys give away districts, correct?
Yeah, we do. I mean, I'm not personally responsible for that, so I can't speak to whatever anybody's doing at a time. But
generality.
But yes, I mean, generally we have been known to give away districts. Yeah. Moving on.
Yeah, I think we'll see a pretty steep spike in terms of inflation for ISK initially, because you're going to have a lot of the vets selling off. I know I have a crap load of stuff that I do not want. I just want to get rid of it. So, I mean, I'll probably be purging all of that. So, we're going to see a big spike in wallets, I think, at first. But it's going to probably level out, which is why I'm curious to find out what those numbers are on what people can expect to make in terms of salvage per match, if it's substantial or not. But I don't think, since they aren't, from my understanding, changing the ISK payouts per battle, they're just adding this feature to sell salvage, that the average amount of ISK production in the game is not going to really go up all that much, aside from whatever salvage they don't use. And a lot of people, I think, do use quite a bit, especially if they're older characters and they have more stuff trained. They're probably more likely to actually use their salvage instead of sell it. So, I mean, at that exchange rate, you'd at 50%. If there's a chance you're going to use it, you're probably going to hang on to it. So, it's more for the middle-aged characters, I think, that have a stuff they haven't trained yet, or they aren't going to train for a long time, that are going to be purging a lot of that extra stuff they have. So we'll see. I don't think it's going to cause too much of a market issue in the long run. I think initially it's going to cause some inflation, but we don't really have a market, so it doesn't matter. So I'm not too concerned about it.
Is there any word from Rotati or Rouge about getting in not necessarily a player market, but a market that would adjust to player purchases and sale?
last time I asked about it, there was a very strict no on the idea because it probably involves way too much more work than he's willing to put into it, and he'd rather put work somewhere else.
That's understandable, yeah.
Yeah, that's as cool as that is, and I've loved playing with the idea because I think it's a pretty awesome way to handle it without an actual player market. But like Iron Wolf said, that is a lot of work to get that working and balanced properly, and I'm sure there's tons of server side coding that has to be done to actually make that happen. So it's neat to talk about, but it probably isn't too realistic for any time in the near future, just because there's lots of other stuff that we can allocate resources towards that is probably a more relative value. But yeah, just one more note on the NPC. You can sell Aurum items. They will sell for basically their equivalent in ISK. So if you're selling like a Proto Galente assault suit, it will sell for whatever your exchange rate is of the ISK version of that. So there's no way to make any additional money off of selling Aurum. It's worth just as much as the ISK version is. And it looks like you can sell BPOs. I'm not sure why you would, but
that would be a mistake.
Yeah, that would be.
That seems like really. I hope that I wish I could ask that they have a warning button for that. Like,
yes, exactly.
That seems like it would be really unfortunate. Of course, you could always file a ticket, but of course, there are fewer support people than there used to be for that sort of thing, and certainly they've actually retracted some languages for support tickets. So. That's not good if they don't have a warning window.
I'm kind of curious if you can sell your starter suits.
I think they're zero value.
So I guess you
Unlimited
could.
ISK.
Yeah,
Trillions.
just be careful when you're selling up all your assets, not mash X too hard, because you don't want to sell something that's actually worth some money. But on the topic of BPOs, it looks like they're starting a service where you can file a ticket. It looks like you can transfer a BPO from one character to another, but only on the same account. Do I have that right?
Yeah.
Were they starting the service or just discussing the possibility of it?
Discussing it.
Another question.
It'll be done manually at first, but they want to make it be automated eventually, from the looks of it.
It depends on how popular the service is.
Now, and that would just be on one account, correct? That wouldn't be across accounts.
Right, which is, it's one of those things that, I don't know how effective that is, because who uses multiple characters on the same account?
Exactly. I mean, and this is just a thought, and this is going back to selling of stuff. If you could sell all the stuff off on your starter character, how much would you get?
Probably less than the 500k they used to give you.
Okay. See, that's the other thing. If you want to go and make sure that no one's going and farming that off, because you would get what?
20% of a bunch of malicious stuff. It's not worth anything.
True.
You'd be getting 50 ISK a piece. It's nothing substantial.
Yeah,
well,
true.
I mean, you say that, but people were still going through. It was 250k. Sorry, farming the 250k, and I mean, it would add a certain amount of logistical grind to sell everything. So it might add another 30 seconds, 40 seconds to every every character, which is kind of substantial when you're looking at the number of characters.
But I mean, if you've and this goes back to a little bit of personal experience, I've ran newer player accounts just to see, why not just run this in see what a fucking triple rep Madruger does in the academy, and watch all sorts of horrible things, as well as when you go and give everyone on a team triple rep blaster Madrugers back when they were really strong. But I mean, hell, I could go and make 5, 6 alts and just make the ISK going through all of them, and I could have that character pretty well set up. So I mean, I don't know. Never mind.
All right.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, the biggest concern is just that people do what they were doing when it was at 250k, which is just making a ton of extra characters and then cycling them. So
yeah, that's probably worth looking into. Just make a new account, take a look what they actually give you, and just see what it would actually come out to be. I mean, if it's nothing substantial, I'm not too worried about it. I don't predict it'll actually get anywhere close to the original amount they had. So I mean, yes, you could, I guess, farm characters, but to a point, is it really worth it? You could do a match the amount of time it takes to get that ISK and make more. So, we'll see. It's definitely worth looking into, though.
Well, I mean, there's an economy of scale, right? Well, I say that it's probably not the right application of that term, but like if you have enough characters running in this correct time windows, if it's enough, you can sort of subsidize by doing a shit ton of characters, right? But so the comparison to one match doesn't necessarily hold up on a per character basis. But yeah, if it's really small, then the actual logistical legwork, it becomes a lot of work for little payout. But we should move on because this is real boring math bullshit.
Yeah. So one quick thing they're adding, just kind of a quality of life change. When you're in your quarters, you can just I guess hold square down to go directly to your battle finder, or hold triangle to go directly to the marketplace. That's kind of cool. You can kind of bypass the video com and save yourself a couple button presses. So that's just a quality of life, kind of a nice thing to have. So the skill points, that's a pretty hefty change. So the first thing they did is it looks like they made it so your SP gain per war point gain has been doubled. So for those of you who don't know, originally you gained 5 SP for every second you spent in battle, and then you gain one SP for every war point you scored, right?
I don't know the exact formula anymore.
Okay, I could, don't quote me on that. I believe it was 5 SP for every second in battle. So the majority of your SP actually came from just being in the battle, and then a smaller portion came from actually gaining war points. So they're doubling that war point gain. They aren't touching the SP per second though. So you'll expect to get, what is that? Well, it's like a 6th to a 7th, extra SP. So that'll help a bit. Now, a big thing which I kind of have an issue with is they are making it so you can triple stack boosters. So you can have 3 boosters running at the same time for active and passive. So you can actually get some pretty insane boosting going on. I kind of do have an issue with this. I think it goes a bit crazy. Like 50% was reasonable. The Omega at 100% was pushing it. Now you can stack triple Omegas. That's kind of nuts.
I mean, do they multiply or do they add when you're stacking beforehand? Before I go and start asking,
I think it's a plus 100%, so it's not a times 2.
Okay,
so I guess with 3 you'd have times 4 SP.
I mean, Omega boosters aren't. If you're stacking them like during an event, sure, why not? I'll bite on there, but it's not a big deal if you're just stacking them in normal every day. How much is a damn Omega booster?
$30 almost for a month.
I mean, if you're talking about the 3-day ones, are kind of cheap, like 7,000 or.
Okay, yeah, that's what, $5, a little under $5, $3.50.
Yeah, the thing to really be concerned about is the faction stacking. I mean, going along with the point Leither made, you can, if you can triple stack your faction boosters, you get a higher payout of your LP, and then you can translate that into selling.
You could triple stack faction boosters?
I believe so.
Yeah, it says veteran players can achieve are getting more of those loyalty points you need. So yeah, I guess faction boosters are stackable. I didn't even see that. That's a very good point.
So that's the S generation.
Yeah, that's not good.
It's gonna be problematic.
I hadn't thought about that. Again, good catch. It's kind of bad.
Yeah, I would have actually preferred they just up the SP per. I mean, they did, but if you're gonna give a substantial increase to SP generation, I wouldn't do it by letting people stack multiple boosters. I mean, again, that I felt comfortable with the 50%. The 100% was pushing it, but they were expensive, so I was okay with it. But that's a lot of SP gain if you really want to put the money into it.
I would love to hear Denny Fleetfoot's perspective on this, because something that you said earlier is my initial reaction to changes like this. I mean, on the one hand, it's a whale trap, right? It's like, who actually buys 3 boosters and puts them on at the same time for anything other than like, a million clone challenge type of event? But the other thing that I fear will happen is people will get into the game. Dust is a hard game to get into. Some of these changes help a little bit, but there's still a lot of things you can buy, and they're adding a lot of things that you can buy, which is, whether you think it's good or bad, they certainly translate to numerical bonuses that a new player who might be a bit bewildered with their skill point gain, a bit confused by the progression system, all the things that we've said in the past. They look at this and then they see, and I can add 3 of these things, and then they go get murked by someone in Proto Gear, and they're like, everyone has 3 of these things. This is bullshit, and they quit. I worry about that sort of thing.
I think that if a new player is going, I don't know, if a new player gets hit, usually it's that first match when they get out of the academy, and this is where squad up with the new players. I mean, if I go and squad up with one, it's like, oh, hey, I'm pretty good. I'm kicking ass. And I mean, I usually go and hold back, and then it's like, get into the first pub match, and then someone's hopes and dreams have just been stomped by a full squad of Nyansan.
Right, so I fear that situation gets exacerbated by, of course, in any free-to-play game, right? I played Planet Side 2, and you try to get cert points, and then you look and it's like, buy whatever they're selling, and it's like, man, this is kind of grindy and stupid, and it made me not want to play. So whenever they increase those numbers, I get a fear that there's a commensurate backlash of, man, that's, they just want me to pour money into their pockets. So,
but I do think it's important that there be ways to catch up. I mean, there's veterans have been, in EVE especially, it's pretty much impossible to catch up to a veteran player, and I think that ways, you get complaints even just with the increased SP rate because people are worried about, well, I put in all this time.
Yeah, I don't care about the SP rate. I'm glad for that. I mean,
I think almost every vet is happy about these changes. Almost. But I mean, can you name? I shouldn't say.
There was a guy complaining that let noobs catch up to him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
how many
that
people,
was the complaint that I saw.
Look, I love everyone, but you can go fuck yourself.
How many? How many complaints are there about? How many complaints are there from a new player or from a vet who sees the new players versus about the SP being so slow to catch up versus how many people are complaining about not having noobs catch up to them? I mean,
I think it's actually a different complaint, at least from the people I've talked to. I think a lot of the concern is that, and this kind of actually, I'll segue into the next section of the skill points, is what they've been doing is that they are increasing the weekly cap on active skill points. So it was floating around 190,000, I think, and now they're pushing it up to 450,000. So it's nearly 4 times the active, SP gain. And so I think what a lot of the vets are complaining about is that they may have spent X number of dollars in the past on a weekly booster, and that booster is only worth effectively 190,000 SP worth of bonus. But a new player coming in can spend the exact same amount of money, and if they grind it out, that booster gets them more SP because it's still a weekly bonus, but it's basically 4 times as effective because it's the cap is much higher. And so I think there's some concern that their boosters are worth more now than they were in the past. So veterans feel that if they spent money in the past, they feel like the newer players are getting a better deal. So I can get where they're coming from. I just don't necessarily
people get
agree.
A better deal on things that come in later on things all the time. Think about the pricing of stuff you buy. If you buy it the first day it's available, it tends to cost 10 times more what you can pick it up at Kmart for in a year. And I think that you can't really design a game on, well, it used to be worth this much.
No, I get that. I'm not really complaining. I'm disagreeing. I'm just saying that I think that a lot of the complaints about this change are not necessarily people not wanting newbies to catch up. I think it's more of their Aurum investment. So I think that's the angle they're coming from. It's not just, I want to be top dog. I mean, sure, there are some people that are going to be like that, but I don't think they're all like that. So I wouldn't lump them all into that category. I think there's some investments concerns involved as well.
That's fair, but I don't know that. So the thing about using 3x skill boosters as a catch-up mechanism is it's actually pretty expensive, right? I just don't think I don't see who is actually going to be buying and applying 3x boosters, to be quite frank with you, which is funny after all of this discussion, right? I don't think that many people will do it because it's expensive and you still have to grind it, right? It's not like, I used to buy passive boosters when I used to give CCP money, because I didn't have to do anything to get the passive boosting, which helped me out a bit. So to me, it's like you have a few whales who will spend on the 3x boosters on all three, right? Or two, or however many. And then you have the new players who see it, and it's probably too expensive for most people, right? How much did 3 boosters cost? Does anyone know offhand? Like, say for a week rather than a month?
For the weekly?
Yeah, say for a week.
I think it'd be 30. Oh, I think.
We'll ballpark it at 25 to be conservative, right? 20, 25. I'm not doubting Keller, but 20 or 25 is bad. Is the point? Like that's kind of expensive to be dumping on a free-to-play game for a single week's worth of whatever you're getting in content. So some whales will do it, and then new players. I fear that there's not that much benefit coming in, if that makes sense. So there's some negative for new players seeing this and thinking that this is what they're required to do to get to this upper point, whereas it's not really the case. But how do you convey that to new players? Right? You can't.
Well, that kind of touches upon the fact that the tutorials are, how to say this, and be accurate, utter shit.
Well, yeah, that's its whole separate issue, right? And that's true, but certainly that's not going to be fixed anytime soon. So I don't know. I just don't think it's that big of a change. As said, I don't think it's going to affect that many people. I don't think that many people are going to take advantage of it. But it's still fucking weird. So.
Yeah, it makes me uneasy. I mean, you do raise a good point that most probably won't do that, but again, it rubs me the wrong way. Now one hidden benefit that I actually do kind of like is that, I know there was a guy in the forums that was complaining that his booster wasn't worth as much now because he had to grind 4 times as much to get its value, which is totally off. I mean, the act of capping a character is actually wasting your booster, because if you cap, the remaining time on your booster you have is basically pointless. I mean, yes, you gain the 50% on the, the war point gains, but that's really not worth all that much. So, I mean, the fact that it's the active SP gain is to a point where it's like you have to play a lot every day to actually cap for the week. And so I think there might be more of a push to you don't need to cap. It's less detrimental if you don't cap. But your booster, if you buy a 7-day booster, you're going to probably get the full benefit of it all week long, because you're not going to cap out. You aren't going to make that booster pointless. So I think it's actually a good thing in that regard, this increased cap, because I mean, I sure as hell don't have the time to get 450,000 SP in active SP every week. It's just not going to happen. So in that regard, I'm actually a little more encouraged to actually use the booster, because I won't be capping, but I can still get that full benefit. So I think that's kind of a side thing people haven't necessarily noticed, and I think it's actually a good thing in that regard. I think it makes boosters worth more because you're guaranteed to get the full benefit from it. And honestly, most people who do cap are going to get more SP out of their booster than they did before, because they aren't going to hit that cap early in the week and waste the rest of the time. So I think in that regard, it's going to be pretty good stuff.
You raise a good point. Maybe it's an incentive for people who play a lot to buy longer lasting boosters. Of course, there are always the people who are running 1 or 3 day boosters and just capping, right, who are playing super hard. It's an interesting point.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can look at the player counts, and it tends to be a lot higher at the start of the week, and then it kind of peters off because people have already capped and they just, they stop playing because there's very little reason to keep going on that character. So I think in this regard, it encourages you to actually keep playing on the same character, because chances are you're not going to actually cap out your character unless you spend 6+ hours a day playing at an average rate. So I think it's a good thing. Some may disagree, but for me it's definitely a positive. So let's move on to the big one, skill reset and refund. So finally, CCP is offering a means to get a respec on your SP. It will be purchased for Aurum. We don't know the specifics on how much it costs, but basically it's just a wipe. You can just reset all your SP and respend it as you like. So this has been a really big point of concern. I mean, a lot of people have been crying for respecs for a very long time. And, they're finally getting it. And of course, an equal number of threads popped up saying, don't give respecs. So I kind of want to get your guys' thoughts on that. What's your personal opinion? How do you feel about it?
Well, it's really nice they're automating the process now, so it frees up development time.
Well, GM tickets mostly, but yes.
Jadek, that was incredibly diplomatic of you. That was like the least non-negative. I think, last week I was a bit more ambivalent. I've thought it over more, and I had a thread go by unresponded to about Legion that also prompted me some sads that have made me consider Dust, that we might be relying on Dust long term. For a very long time, I don't like respecs in that context. CCP will certainly make money in the short term on it. How expensive it is certainly a good question. If it's $20, people aren't going to be laying down $20 just to respec every other day, or every other patch even. Well, most people, of course. But it's the same arguments that have gone through as an old organizer of planetary conquest stuff. One of the advantages we tried to wield was having the organization coordination to get people into a set of skills that made sense, that went cohesively together in building a team, and we did that for people from day one, right? We tried to convince people to spec within the roles that they wanted, and to pick but within those to pick suits that made sense and fittings that would make sense. And in order for those decisions to show benefit, there needed to be a slow interchange between flavor of the month cycles and nerfed flavor of the month cycles. Usually that happens in a balanced meta. So you have a flavor of the month pop up, CCP nerfs it, or whoever nerfs it, and the consistent middle of the line thing that wasn't overpowered but that was good is its best right after that thing gets nerfed, and then it slowly peters off down to its kind of base level effectiveness. I wax eloquent. Anyway, that whole dynamic is shattered by respecs. There's no way to accomplish
I would state that I think that respecs are more and more irrelevant with this patch, because you now also have a greater skill point gain in general. You have the ability to stack boosters. I think it's in fact disadvantageous in many cases to go and choose to use the respec method, but it's important to have it because of the number of people who will not be satisfied with any other word than "I want a respec."
I mean, that's true, and that's something I kind of wanted to. This would be a good time to say it because we're at the end of the list, right? Of stuff. This patch, CCP have put a lot of time and effort. I mean, not to lump them for it on stuff that they can make more money off of, but a lot of the stuff that they're implementing is stuff that I would typically argue wasn't good for the long-term feasibility of the dynamics in Dust, but always had the potential to make them money. Nobody should question that they could make money off of respecs, right? You could. I could talk to my corp mates for years now, and you'd get 25, 30, 45, 50% of them just, rough heuristic, saying, yeah, like I fucking hate what I'm in. It has been nerfed 3 times. How am I supposed to make this decision? I want to respec. So they'll make money. The question is it really going to pan out for the game in the long term? And you're right, they've made changes to the skilling system. Is that going to pan out? It might. I would have rather they went through tiericide, but of course, that becomes increasingly unlikely as we put a lot of effort into balancing stuff in its current state, and now we've got skill point changes, which make tiers less relevant in some sense because you can skill into stuff faster, but they're still relevant for the new player experience because you're still going to have low SP for a while. So
yeah, Leither, I think you kind of touch on a big thing. I mean, that whole end game dynamic, being able to skill to that point faster, how that's going to like translate to a feeling of accomplishment in the game. Like when you get to that point, I've beaten dust. What do I do now?
I think someone calculated out that if you spend, you triple stack Omega boosters, what is like if you spend like $5,000 to do it, but you could max out every skill in dust in 80 something weeks.
Yeah, I think Kane figured that.
Well, you don't win dust until you leave it.
Oh, it's the same Eve thing.
Yeah.
Were you an Eon at some point?
Yeah. Just for a little bit.
You had to think about that really hard.
Yeah, just for a little bit. It's been a while though.
Sure. That's a jab at any of your Eon friends if they're still around.
Yeah,
I miss those
hey,
guys.
still. No, never mind.
I guess the way I see it is, I mean, let's be honest here, Dust is basically a lobby shooter. It never panned out to become what it should have been. So it's basically a lobby shooter. I mean, yeah, you got the orbital mechanic and you have some sort of link with faction warfare, but it's basically a lobby shooter. And the intention to move to, a true persistent open world sort of universe that was linked to EVE Online, we had a lot of loose ends, I think, that were there with the intention of tying into those more lofty goals. And I think they've basically obviously said, we're not doing that for Dust, we're doing that for Legion. And so they're kind of tying up those loose ends with the intention of, yep, it's a lobby shooter. It's a free-to-play lobby shooter with a cash shop. That's what it is. So we're just going to kind of bundle it up, and that's what it's going to be. And that makes me kind of sick because, we all love Dust. We all want it to become what hopefully Legion will become. But at the same time, it's like, is this a good thing just to kind of accept the fact that it is what it is and give people those tools that they wanted? And yes, it is a way for them to make money, but at the same time, I do feel like it's almost tying up loose ends that we were keeping open for the sake of future progress that we obviously know isn't going to happen at this point. So, some of it makes me kind of uncomfortable. The respecs, I don't normally like the sell to NPC. I don't like, but for the state of which Dust is in, the state of what it's going to be and what it's not going to be, is it really a bad thing? And I have to say, probably not. I think that doing these things, it's kind of accepting defeat for Dust, but we all kind of knew that to begin with. And so, I mean, it's not going to be what we want it to be, but is it a positive in the long run for Dust? Probably.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. It all boils down to the question of whether they're actually still making Legion, if they'll ever talk about it, and if it'll actually ever happen, and we can get core changes to the game. Despite the fact that this is a client patch, which is itself kind of alarming in a way, because we weren't supposed to be getting client patches, and now we are. So that really throws into flux where the hell Legion is. Of course, that just boils down to CCP saying anything other than throwing your random general brand director. I hope he doesn't listen to this, because that just sounded really condescending. But oh man, that interview, man.
Oh, that guy's a moron.
Ouch! Ouch!
That interview,
I
have no words for that except like, why is this guy allowed to speak on camera when he is obviously not checked in on that product?
I had a lot of words to say. I was screaming at my screen while he was talking, but I can't
if
say
there
him on
are
the air.
any CCP employees listening, I would strongly encourage you to maybe have a word, or if Ryan is listening, maybe think about, if you're not going to talk about Legion, just refuse to do an interview.
Yeah. What was kind of sucky about it is we had I think 2 Dust people show up to Vegas there. I remember it was like Joseph Rich, and he was trying to actually talk to that guy, and he wouldn't say anything. He'd only talk to someone from the press.
Should have had a press. Should make fake press.
I mean,
have
it
someone
makes
make
sense.
Fake press pass.
I was sitting there watching the video and went, oh, this makes sense now. The reason we don't have anything on Legion is because we have an idiot at the helm leading marketing. Okay, that makes sense.
Well,
now.
I think we've always known that marketing wasn't so bright. I mean, I think that was very obvious from the start.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like to trash on people. I mean, they're doing their job, but honestly, that guy just pissed me off. Just the crap he was spewing, and it's just like, dude, you have no idea what's really going on. You know, you don't get it, and he's just spewing crap. And yeah, if you guys haven't seen the interview, there's an interview available from Vegas on Legion. And when I say it's on Legion, I mean there's nothing about Legion in it other than, you know, we can't talk about it because reasons. So there's nothing.
There was a
in
whole
there that's
thing about
meaningful.
player communication being an important thing in the process.
I'm telling you guys, that guy's straight out of 2011. CCP have been spending their money on a time machine, and that's why Dust completely bunked, so that they could bring someone in from 2011 to talk about our visceral hand-to-hand experience. I'm sorry, that was just like right out of 2011. No other way to describe that. Like, I can't. You guys, what you should do if you're in marketing right now at CCP, you need to sit down and come up with a new set of buzzwords, because those are all played. Promise.
It's a visceral experience.
Yeah, after last FanFest, they're all played. Promise.
It just boggles the mind that they know that this shit blows up in their face, and they're still doing it. It's like, how many times are you gonna, stab yourself in the eye before you figure out, maybe I shouldn't lie about having player communication and actually do it. I mean, are they?
Not
do they expect
lying?
the press just to buy it?
What are you talking about?
Do they just expect the press just to buy it? That, oh yeah, they're talking with
the
their
press
players.
Doesn't
you
care.
Should...
The press just wants to go and to have stories.
So let me talk about contradictory messages. So we've got some interesting contradictory messages. We know that CCP have had wild success with the balance patches that Rat and Logibro and their team have pushed through on Dust. Large part because they've interacted with the community. On the other hand, they don't talk about Legion. Let's talk about another contradiction. Client patch for Dust that Pokey is right, is tying off a lot of loose ends that kind of says to everyone, this is not going to be a long-term game. In the sense that this is not going to be a long-term resource war game, which was what, kind of one of the selling points that we were originally on about. So they're saying that it's not going to be that game. At the same time, they're patching it and devoting resources to Dust, which I'm not saying it's not great to see Dust improved. It is. But they won't talk about Legion. They've taken resources that they apparently aren't applying to Legion to make a client-side patch to Dust. It's like it's self-contained contradiction.
Dust and Legion are using different pools of resources.
I mean, you say that, right? I mean, I've heard this whole research versus the Dust earmarked stuff, but I find it hard to believe that's so incredibly separate in a company that just slashed 10 or 15% of their workforce.
Yeah, it's kind of the idea that CCP is a 1.5 trick pony right now.
Well, to be fair, a lot of the stuff that they're adding in terms of actual assets was already completed and just needed to be tweaked to get it in there. So, I mean, the work required for that may have been significantly lower. I mean, the map was already done for the most part. The terrain was already done for the most part. So, I mean, I can kind of get that. And I mentioned it earlier that I found it surprising that they added stuff like, the NPC agent in the war or the Merc quarters. I expected just a menu, but the fact that there's actually like a model, I almost wonder if these are things that were in Legion or they're planning on putting in Legion in whatever form, and they just kind of went, we can toss the model over there, and throw it in. Or the loyalty system. That could be a Legion thing that they just went, just throw it in Dust. I mean, that's not hard to do if you've already coded it. I mean, it's not like a loyalty system is proprietary to a PC and won't work on the PS3. So, I mean, they could be devoting some resources, but at the same time, it could also be a lot less than it appears because it's already being done on a different project. Now, I obviously don't know. It's just me tinfoiling, but I think in that regard, it's kind of ambiguous in actually how much Dust unique effort was put into this that wasn't already done or being done on another project, and they just kind of ported it over for a quick add-on.
Well, I mean, I agree. There are two sides to every coin, and on the flip side, the question is, you can't. It's very hard to just repurpose development teams as well. Is one thing I'll say, like without concerted effort. That at least has been my experience. I don't do game dev, but in development, Soraya does some of this stuff too, so he might have a word on it. But like, people who are working on a thing, coding a thing, making a thing,
Well,
it's you can certainly assign them tasks, in batches, but like it's hard to say, well, we made this thing for a Legion and now we want you to put it in Dust. That's like, okay, putting it in Dust. What are the technical underpinnings, Okay,
Well, I mean,
we have to put it in this format.
It is the same engine.
That's true. That's true. And that's
the other thing is in terms of graphics quality. The other thing is that you may notice that when you look at something far off, it is in lower quality. You have to develop lower quality models of every item you put in a game. So, that's called level of detail, and that's ensuring you're not rendering like, a 5,000 polygon item when it's 300 meters away and you what you see is a speck. It's got to have a level, a number of polygons relative to how close it is to you, how much detail you can see. So they already have to make those models. So taking that work and then putting it in Dust at a lower resolution isn't actually all that difficult. There's an argument to be made too that testing things is something they can try out and see how things go. They can test out, hey, do players like this? Do players like that? Does this have issues we need still to work out, or is this good? There's a lot of things that you can possibly, benefit from throwing stuff in Dust in terms of, pre-working on Legion as well.
Well, do you test but you don't talk to you test but you're not willing to talk to people, right?
Well, that's
CCP logic.
I mean, it would be huge if they said, hey, we got this loyalty system we did for Legion. We think it's really cool. It's not too hard to put in Dust, so we want to let you guys try it out and see what you think. If they just said that, people would be like, sweet, cool. We like that. We don't like that. They don't care what it is. They just want to have input. They want to know that stuff is happening. But again, this comes down to CCP having this fear of talking about Legion and if it's actually existing or not. Like, they are so set on hammering in that, well, it's a prototype. It's not a project yet. They drop that line so often. I'm just like, guys, you're lying through your teeth here. What's actually going on? Because I don't believe that you still consider this only a prototype. Like, there's got to be more to it. I don't want to tinfoil too much again, but it's like they are so insist on hammering that line in every time they ask about it. It's like you're covering something up. Just talk to us. You will have an overjoyed population who isn't scrambling for 5 seconds of John Wick to get the most information out of Legion they can with some,
It's a good movie, though.
It was.
Sure, but my point is, it's almost kind of pathetic. We're like dogs digging for scraps that fall off the table in little bits of footage that land in a movie, and people lose their shit because that's the best we get. And if they just said, hey, this is an asset we've got in both games, I think people would be cool with that. I think they would really enjoy that and appreciate that.
Exactly. I mean, if a little bit of communication can go a fucking long way, it's not like, even if they went and did the little posts like they used to do earlier, where they just say, hey, here's this feature we're interested in putting in, like with progression. Hell, that got a huge amount of feedback. So what if the feedback's not good? It's going to happen. But, I mean, it doesn't matter if the feedback's not good. It matters if you're getting feedback or not. It matters if you're interacting with the community. If you don't interact with the community's not going to be very happy, which is going to... It's not going to lead to good places, because, I mean, I don't see Legion as having a community of its own to really have. It's going to pull people from Eve, and it's going to pull people from Dust. to be quite honest, the people from Dust are going to have a greater advantage in a huge amount of ways. I mean, they'll have the meta, they'll know what gear, they'll have the SP, they'll have ISK, they'll have. You're wanting to not interact with the people who are more likely going to be some of the most important players in that game. I just don't see why they don't want to.
Because the guy in charge of marketing is an idiot?
Yeah,
I think we've known that for a while.
Yeah, like, I have no idea about that. Like, as the rumors go, FanFest was a bit of a fallout with marketing and everyone else in terms of Dust, but, we still have interesting decisions going on. And you'd think it would have to be someone above Rouge's head, or else he's complicit in it, in which case, dude, what? I thought you were cool. That's pretty much my reaction by this point. One thing I was going to say was that this tinfoil speculation on my end, all we have is speculation. So we have this line. They talk about not greenlighting. Greenlighting being the word. I don't know why that became the way to put it, but not greenlighting Legion. Right. So what would happen if they didn't? What would be their alternatives? Right. Like either Dust runs into the ground and dies. A very sad kind of simpering death. Or they try to port it to PS4 directly, which they, arguably, considering the way that they've been treating Legion for the last, year by this point, should have done in the first place instead of trying this BS. Okay, well, then the exact long-term issues that I'm concerned about in this patch would probably be, anachronisms that would... Man, some $5 words tonight. That would carry over, and that scares me. Like, so now we're imagining a PS4 ported Dust that has a future, but it has respecs and triple boosters and a market agent and all these things that are definitely an admission to an arcadey game. That's kind of scary.
I don't know. I don't think there's anything that really closes avenues here. I do think, it is, at the end of the day, a free-to-play game, and it was never not going to be a free-to-play game, and I don't think CCP was doing before a particularly good job of being a free-to-play game. And if anything, I think this may be them finally figuring out how to be a free-to-play game.
I disagree that this is the universal solution. I think that they've come across a lot of great things. I mean, they've been selling Quave suits, and a lot of them. The personalization that people wanted. I mean, you can. Aeon Amity speaks from beyond the mumble and says, "BPOs." Aeon, I love you, but unless you're concerned about BPO suits and their effect on the economy, the personalization aspect is the only part of Quave suits. That's great. The thought of having an agent that doesn't add this bonus, but it's just kind of an avatar thing to add to your merc quarters, that's great. They have some of the things that we've been telling them that people would pay oodles of money for. They've started getting those in, but some of these other changes, some of the actual statistical changes, I'm not as big of a fan of those.
Okay, but I return to my tinfoil that they could be trying to decide, well, does this work? Does that work?
Just because
going to say something.
I mean, they're definitely going at a variety of avenues of convincing people to open their wallets, and I don't think that that's inherently a bad thing.
You're tinfoiling, correct, Soraya?
Yeah.
Okay. It's just one of those lovely feelings you get when, CPM's tinfoiling too.
It's a theory.
All right, guys. Well, I think we've probably exhausted our topics here for the night, and it is getting kind of late here. So, is there anything else you guys want to do before shoutouts?
Come on, not even going to talk about going and having needles, going and just nerfing those into the ground?
I forgot about that.
That was one change I was not happy about. I mean, I'm happy about it from the fact that I'm glad Killer's Day is ruined by it. I'm actually, that's the only reason I'm not angry about the change. that Killer's Day is ruined, because ruining Killer's Day, you have to bear in mind, is like my primary goal as CPM, is to make Killer sad. But
yes, makes the campaign manager sad.
It's you help me and then I screw you over. No, I think the biggest thing to me is I think not enough people use the call for help button, and I don't like the idea that that someone has to request the help to get it. I think that you should be able to get the help, whether you asked for it or not, but it should be an option to choose to use the help, or to say no. I wanted a reject revive option, and that is still what I believe is the ideal manner of gameplay, but I didn't win on that, obviously.
You can still troll people pretty easily that way. I mean, you could give them the hope that you're going to, I'm just about to revive you. Nope, you're not getting the revive.
Yeah, for those of you who haven't read the patch notes, basically what they've done is you cannot be revived by a needle unless you actually press the call for help button, which then makes your little revive icon blink on the Logi's screen. So it allows people to reject a revive by not asking for it in the first place. So if you just want to bleed out, you can just bleed out, but if you actually want to be revived, you can hit a button and that will unlock the ability for a Logi nearby to actually revive you. I'm kind of with Soraya. I would have preferred a reject revive button rather than you have to call for it, but that probably comes down to a matter of resources implementing it. It's probably easier just to have the feature not work unless you actually asked for it.
Didn't they have it that way before?
It used to work that way.
You just had a suicide button.
I think there was a patch where they made it so you had to call for help and everyone hated it and they changed it back, but I could be completely wrong.
I feel
long time ago.
Really, I feel like I don't remember that. If I have two people saying the opposite, then so be it. I remember there was a patch where it was very hard to find people who were dead if they didn't call for help. It seems like
it still is.
Well, yeah, I mean that's true. But of course, I remember back when they first threw in needles and they didn't even have to call for help, and it was just like, is that guy dead? Has he bled out yet? You'd stick them and everyone was like surprised, it's like, whoa, that actually worked. But yeah, I think like Battlefield 3 and 4 and whatever games still have revive mechanics have pretty much proven that the accepting revive thing tends to work better than most other systems, or it tends to work. So
I mean, I've never seen a game where, aside from Dust, where there wasn't you get a revive and then you can accept or reject it at that point.
Mag was non-consensual.
Yeah,
but it was really Duty. Yeah, it's really fast though. So it wasn't that big of a deal. You came up with full health in Mag, whereas in Dust you have this 3-second animation and you can't move and your screen has to reload and you're up with half armor and
Yeah, Mag, you could basically pop up and be shooting and kill the guy who killed you in half a second if someone sprayed you from across the room. It was a little insane.
Amazing.
Thankfully now you can get your shields back.
Yeah, that's something that went in last update, I believe, and you come back with the same percentage of shields as you do armor, which is pretty legit. It's actually made your survivability quite a bit higher, especially on some of those heavy suits that have a lot of shields, so that's good to see.
Yeah, it's really increased the value of those LP needles, too.
Oh, I love myself some 100% needles, except when Zell's in squad, who I still will kill, and I don't care if I go and get kicked.
See, and here's why I don't squad with Killer and Fact War.
Yeah,
you guys are so abusive.
It's a
very abusive relationship.
Yeah,
it's like a love-hate when it's 5% hate for every part love, but
No, it's probably 95% hate, 5% love.
This is the parting shot.
It's a very close line,
Yeah.
What was it, Leither?
The parting shot on needles that I'd say is I still think that one of the biggest detriments to needles across the board is the fact that their animation still takes forever compared to battle times. I still think that that's bad. Especially, it's funny comparing Mag, where we didn't have this concept of clone count and Dust, and then comparing the two revive systems. You probably don't ever want a revive system as cartoony as Mag's unless you're playing Mag, but it was so much easier and prolific, and you compare that to Dust, where your big advantage is not spinning a ticket, right, to die. But it's like in competitive situations, like I literally would I would get mad at people if they had needles. I would tell people before we went into PC matches, don't have a needle. Like if I catch you with a needle, I'm going to be irritated.
I always used
you're probably not
100%.
gonna,
So
like,
I was that night. I would
still,
use
like,
80s and 100s. I mean, if you,
the problem
know,
is,
it
Killer,
depends.
like you still
Like,
have to bend down. Like even if you're a safe needler, if you know what you're doing and you're not going to pick someone up in most cases where they're going to get shot, it still
I
takes
usually
too
was
long.
I was on the outside though.
It's too much of a risk.
Yeah.
Like, fair enough. Like there could be some people who know how to use needles, right? But it was like, it made more sense as policy.
The majority
to
of
be
people,
like,
yeah.
But yeah, still in PC,
The
it's a lot
uplane's
safer to spawn in.
Even someone who knows what they're doing, with the length of the animation, it can still go awry, and when it does, it's really bad in PC because you lose that guy, you lose the guy needling, and potentially you lose something that could have been uplink, could have been remote explosives. That the opportunity cost of that slot is huge. That equipment slot, like you could do so many other things with it. So.
Has Rattati even talked about potentially speeding up the animation? Is that something you might be interested in doing?
We could poke around, see what he thinks about it.
I think it's definitely worth looking at. I mean, even if it was a situation where the injection animation from the Logi was fast and then the standing up animation was slower, at least you're only putting one person at risk instead of both of them when Logi is, crouching down for way too long while the other guy stands up and they're both at risk. I think that would even be an improvement. But I think overall, just ramping that speed up a little bit would be huge. Because like Leither said, we tell people, don't bother with a needle. It's a liability. You're going to get killed. You're going to get the other guy killed again. It's not worth it to just respawn because it's way too long. I mean, we don't want something that's cartoony as Mag where, you pop up guns blazing, but at the same time, it's a point where it's not worth it. Then that piece of equipment is devalued to a point where what's the point of having it? If it's not useful in competitive play, it needs to actually have some viability. So something definitely you should probably look at. I think a lot of the Logic community would really appreciate at least some thought into that in terms of, maybe speeding that up or tweaking how it works. So I do encourage you to at least approach Rattati and get his thoughts on that.
Community or even the assault community, like it would be the needle is the most logical thing, except for the fact that it kind of underperforms to stick on an assault suit because it's the cheapest, I believe, if someone will correct me if I'm wrong, of all the equipment types, and assaults tend to be in position for that sort of maneuver. They also have more health to pull it off if it were somewhat faster, right? But they're not. So it's an interesting thing. There's a certain limitation I think everyone can feel comfortable with, the actual technical limitation of the screen switching, because it takes forever, to pull up the overhead map. Always one of the I hate to speculate,
amazingly
but
crappy things.
Yeah, always one of the disappointing things.
Amazing how it takes half a minute to load a simple spreadsheet to look at corp members.
Like
That was
the overhead map was always a big blow to me, a big blow to my heart, because it's like you want to be able to pull it out open and see what the actual tactical strategic layout of what's going on is, but that's never actually an option. But I digress.
would you want to look at the map and see tactical things? What are you?
I like to
what
be
is
able to
this?
open a map and not fall through it.
Isn't that right? Flying through the map is always comical. All right, guys. Is there anything else you want to go over before we do shoutouts?
Yeah, man.
No? Okay, I think we're good then.
I've been having some good luck going and blowing up people in space doing orbitals.
Oh,
I mean, this has nothing to do with that. I mean, people
Can
just
anyone
have
find you
terrible
and no one
OPSEC.
kill you during the course of the podcast?
No one killed me.
Darn.
That should be an event. It should be he's in this region. Go and find him and see if they can
I'm
take him
in,
up before the end of the podcast.
Right now, I'm in the Great Wildlands.
Nice.
Okay, I'm
All
going to
right.
be heading into Molden Heath if anyone wants to try and get me. Anyone who's listening.
What's your character name on Eve?
Juan Miligari. Yeah.
All right, guys, there you go.
Yeah.
Go find him.
Yep.
Zell will pay handsomely.
What are you spending my money?
Yes. Well, you want him to suffer. This is definitely in character for you.
It's on a good cause, Zell.
I can't believe
charity.
you broke up with me and ran off with Pokey Soraya. Now he's spending your money.
Yeah, I know. It's horrible.
All right. Well, let's it's getting pretty late here, guys. Let's do shout outs. So let's start at the top of the list again. Iron Wolf.
I'd like to give a shout out to CCP Ratati for this wonderful patch and his team. Hopefully we can learn the names of these developers that did all these extra features.
All right, Jadek.
I'd like to give a shout out to Yep and Tech McMeds. I will finally be doubling your ISK when 1.9 deploys.
All right, Killer.
Shout out to Darth going in, getting PC stuff, and getting a bunch of other stuff for top men going again.
Sounds good. And Leither?
The boring shout out to the guests. Thanks for having me on, guys.
We're glad to have you. And Zell?
I'm giving my shout out to the unnamed dev who's supposedly fixing the game.
Yeah, for sure.
Devs,
Yeah, definitely a
plural.
shout out to the dev team that put together 1.9. Lots of good stuff in there. You know, I really do hope that things go well. There's some points of concern we've obviously gone over, but we'll see. We don't have exact details yet. We'll find out on Tuesday and see if it blows up in our faces or not. And I have to give a shout out to Appia because they finally gave her the ability to not get revived by needles that she hates them so much. So I think it's the only positive thing she had to say about the patch. So we spar on the forums, but she's a pretty cool gal. So
if we get a positive thing from Appia on a change list, that's a win.
Yeah. She was like, needles. Well, I wanted a reject button, but I'll take this. I was like, okay, wow, hell has frozen over. So anything else quick, guys, before we head out? I know, Iron Wolf, I kind of got you off.
I was correcting Zell, it's multiple devs, not just one.
Well, it's, hopefully we can get some more information, since we complained about CCP and their marketing and their lack of communication, even though they claim they have lots of communication, which is always amusing. So, but with that, guys, thanks for tuning in. We'll be back next week at the same time. Hopefully I get the time right this time, and hopefully Jay will be back with us. We'll see you then. So this is Biomassed crew and guests signing off.